we have a lot of goodies to tell us today, and we hope you will know more about whale shark, and then you will get to know their significance in the marine ecosystem. And we are expecting our speaker also, where he will tell us about what he has been doing through his organization about shark conservation, both in Cameroon and globally. So to start with, I would just like to introduce the organization that is organizing this seminar right now, and that's Aqua World. So we want to know more about Aqua World before we get started, and then we just go into it sharply. And then just give me a moment, please. Yep. So Aqua World is an award-winning youth-led organization, or with the founder being Paul Ayomide, and it's focused on projecting the aesthetic values of the aquatic environment through advocacy, events, and projects. I know it's because we are passionate about the ocean, because we are passionate about the marine ecosystem. That's why we are here. I know most of us have so many other things to do, but we found ourselves. So, sorry. Okay. So that's what Aqua World is all about. We are a youth-led organization, and we have so many timeout members which are volunteering for this vision to be accomplished. So we are focused on projecting the aesthetic values of the aquatic environment. So our mission is to ensure clean and healthy aquatic landscape across the blue planet, and to bring the aquatic aesthetic knowledge and values closer to people. And our vision is to acquaint the general public with the values of the aquatic world and its resources. So with all this, we have our objectives, which is to connect the younger generation with the ocean through ocean literacy. And this is one of the things we are doing now, like to let us know more about the ocean and the organisms living in the ocean. And we also have the objective to execute grassroots projects in coastal communities to promote ocean health. This is ongoing, and we've done so many projects in the past. And then there are some projects ongoing now also. And we also volunteer for activities that promote sustainability of the aquatic world and our resources. And we train students and youth to act as ocean armies. We train them, we arm them with the right knowledge and understanding of what to do to be able to conserve the marine ecosystem. So we have our core values, which are integrity, we are creative, and we have our teamwork is one of our major core values. And we are all set of volunteers, and then we are competent in all the things we do. We are committed, and we add value to everyone we meet. So this is how we operate. So we operate through clean and safe ocean advocacy, where we connect younger generation in Nigeria with the ocean through our school and community outreaches. But right now we have a foreign hub which look into what we can bring to the public, maybe to virtual our virtual audience on what to do better in conserving our ocean. And also we have ocean plastic advocacy, where we join other local and global actors and armies to mitigate plastic pollution through campaign events, plastic mop-ups, and cleanups events and projects. So through this, we know plastic is a global menace now. Like several research have been done on plastics, but we need to bring it home. So we are advocating to mitigate plastic pollution through our volunteering activities, through our school reach out, and other activities. So we hope you will join us to make this happen. So after the seminar, there will be a call to join. And if you're interested, you can actually reach out to me on the chat, or you can reach out to Paul Ayomide on the chat also. So that is what Aqua World is all about. So to the art of the event today. So today we want to talk about whale shark. You know, it was surprising when someone commented like, oh, someone said there's an error in the name of maybe the fish species you put there, that it's shark, not whale shark. I was like, oh, I just laughed. So that means some people don't even know that we have a fish species called whale shark. And then we want to know more about whale shark, what they are up to, like their significance in the marine ecosystem, and what will happen if they actually go into extinction. And that is why today, August 30 of every year has been how let's say this, has been made separated to celebrate this particular marine species because of their significance in the marine ecosystem. So it's good to have you all here to celebrate this day, to know why we must conserve them, why they must not go on extinction, because if they do, then there are things that will be at stake. So as we still wait for our speaker, hopefully he join us soon. So I'll just tell us.
Excuse me.
Please, let's mute our mics. This is how it will go. I will present, and if our speaker I don't know what is keeping him long. So if our speaker is able to join us, then it presents, and then we have a kind of question and answer session. But if hopefully he does. So, but we can always ask questions after each session. So that's just what I want to say. So you can ask questions after my presentation or the presentation of our speaker. So let's go to the presentation. Yes. Can you see my slide? Yes. No. Maybe. Maybe not. Yes. Thank you, Scholar Aditola. Okay. So today is International Whale Shark, and this particular event is brought to you by Aqua World, as I said earlier on. So I want to just to go into the details of what whale shark is all about. So I'm going to be telling us please, if you want to say something or you have questions, just raise up your hand. I've muted my view, so I've reduced my view, so I can't really see anybody. So we want to talk about facts about whale shark. So whale sharks are the largest fish species in the ocean. I know some people may say, what about blue whales? I think blue whales are the largest maybe marine organisms in the world, but blue whales are mammals. So, but whale sharks are the largest fish species in the ocean, which actually makes it to be more interesting to know about this particular fish species. And they are filter feeders, which means that their diet consists mostly of microscopic organisms known as plankton. Now, sharks, we know sharks to be predators. They eat fish, they eat maybe fish, or they can even prey, they can injure human beings, but don't worry. Once you are around whale shark, you don't have to fear, because they are filter feeders, they eat planktons. I don't know if there are some people that are not, I know we have audience that are not in fisheries, or maybe in aquaculture or something, or other related field. So planktons are organisms that relies on the current of the water, like they are suspended in the water. So they rely on the current of the water to move. So they cannot swim against the current of the water. These are the organisms that whale shark eat, even though they are the biggest. So they don't eat fish, they don't eat other maybe fish species. What they consume is the planktons, and they can process more than 6,000 liters of water in a day. So you can see these fish species, they have significant role, because if they are processing, so another word for the process in this time is that they can filter 6,000 liters of water. And then with that, we know that they can eat more than 20 kilograms of planktons a day, hence their name plankton patroller. So, and with that, since they don't need to eat fish, they don't need to eat maybe octopus, they don't need to eat other maybe marine animals or freshwater animals, as it may be. So they don't have teeth, which makes them not to be part of great predators. We know sharks to be part of the top predators, but whale shark, they don't have teeth and they are not part of the great predators, but they can grow up to 18 meters long and weigh about 10,000 kilograms. Can you just have that? Maybe just try to think about how huge the shark is if they can weigh up to 10,000 kilograms, and that makes them to be the biggest shark species among the biggest fish in the ocean. And they are found mostly in the warm tropical and warm temperate sea, except the Mediterranean. So across the Gulf of Guinea coast, which span through Africa, or maybe in Argentina, or the South American side. So you can find this great whale shark there. So what are the significance of whale shark? So we want to talk about their significance in the ocean. So they are bioindicator of marine ecosystem, of a healthy marine ecosystem, pardon me. So what this means is that it is a water that is in a good state that whale shark will go to, because they need the plankton. And a water that is not rich in nutrients, they cannot go there, because they need the planktons they feed on needs nutrients to grow. So if you see whale shark in a particular water body, you can be sure that the water is healthy. So those are one of the significance of the whale shark in the marine ecosystem. And they help to regulate the growth of planktons, even though plankton shows maybe there's a nutrient in the water. Too much of planktons also can cause eutrophication. So eutrophication is maybe I don't know if you've heard about algal bloom before. I know most of us have heard about algal bloom before, but to those of us that haven't heard of it before, we are oblivious of what algal bloom is all about. So algal bloom is the excessive growth of algae on the water surface or in the water column, which actually makes the water to be devoid of oxygen, because as the excess growth of algae is occurring, they need to decay. So through the decay process, they use more of oxygen to degrade themselves, and then the oxygen that the fish and other marine animals needs to maybe grow to survive, they use most of it to decay and to decompose. So, but whale shark helps to regulate this, because we said that they consume up to 20 kilograms of planktons a day. So they helps to regulate the growth of planktons, because too much of their growth may actually cause problem for the fish and other marine animals that are growing, that are in the marine ecosystem. So if they become extinct, pardon me, the creatures that they prey on swells dramatically, geometrically, because imagine maybe a group of fish, a show of school of fish that is consuming a large number of planktons, and then they are extinct. That means like most of them, like the planktons they are consuming, I just mentioned the effect of excessive growth of plankton to us. Now imagine those planktons, they don't have a big consumer like whale shark anymore that is consuming them. Then they are left with no choice than to be multiplying. There will be a multiplying effect in which there will be excessive growth of these plankton, and then they get to to multiply, and then they get to deplete the oxygen, the dissolved oxygen in the water needed for the fish and other animals, other marine animals to grow. So there are threats to whale shark. However, even though they are significant, there are some threats that they are facing because they are slow-moving fish, because they don't bite, and then they are being posed with. So there are so many threats that is facing them. So the foremost thing that is threatening them is climate change, which increases the surface, the sea surface temperature, which it don't affect whale shark distribution. You know, I talked about them being in the tropical region. So now imagine whale shark going from having to move from the tropical region to other places just because the temperature is too high for them to cope with. So most of them are moving towards the polar region. Like the polar region are places that are extremely cold. Like talk of, Russia is cold, and talk of Greenland, talk of that Norway side. So those are the places that are extremely cold, or maybe Antarctica, the Arctic region. So climate change is affecting the distribution of this whale shark, which is actually making them to be how will I say this, to be susceptible to predation, or to hunting, or to death, because they have to travel on a long distance to reach an environment that is conducive for them to survive. And due to their slow swimming nature, whale sharks can collide with boats and get injured, because even though the boat is honking. Okpemipo, please, you are making mark on the slide, please. So even though they are slow swimming, they have slow swimming. Excuse me. Okpemipo, can you please stop doing that? You are making me to lose the line of my thoughts. So even though the boat is honking, they may not be able to quickly move from their current position, which makes them to be susceptible to the propeller of the boat, and then they get injured, which can actually lead to their death ultimately. So these fish, even though they are important, but because they are slow swimming, they are heavy. Imagine we talked about them being up to maybe 100 kg or 1000 kg rather. So even though they are significant, but because they are they have slow swimming nature, they may actually get injured by boats and the likes. Okay, come on. So, and until fisheries significantly affect their population because of their late maturity. So they get mature late, and then they have the lifespan up to 100 years. Some live up to 120 years. So until fisheries actually make them to their population to reduce drastically, and then whale sharks oil are being used to waterproof boats and for shoe polish. So these are the things that actually makes the demand on them to be high. Like they use their oil to make waterproofs for boats to prevent for like an anti-fouling paint. Like the meaning of anti-fouling paint is like, okay, you don't want maybe mussels or other fouling organisms to attach to your boat and then cause your boat to be grounded. So you can use maybe shark's oil to paint your whale shark oil to paint your boat and the likes, to mix with other chemicals. You mix it with other chemicals to prevent your biofouling agent to biofoul your boat. And then okay, and they are used for shoe polish, but in Taiwan restaurants, they use the flesh, like they use the flesh in Taiwan restaurants. It's like a kind of a special recipe for them. So, and the things are being sold as display for trophy, or they are being discarded. Also, tourism is having a kind of negative effect on them because they don't bite. because they don't actually cause harm to people. So people tend to go closer to them to actually enjoy the view of how whale shark is going, is moving. And when you see whale shark moving in the water, you see them being accompanied by other species of fish. So like other school of fishes accompanying them. So this gives a kind of great view. And then people dive into the water, go out with a boat to the water to see. Like you can see from the background picture here, you see someone making a documentary about the whale shark. This is because the whale shark doesn't bite. So imagine it's other species of shark that bites. This person wouldn't have the privilege to do what he's doing now. So whale shark doesn't bite. So which makes tourists to come closer to them, and then they are affecting their growth. They are affecting their feeding ability, because they stop feeding effectively because they are trying to avoid the tourist. So instead of them to start feeding on the plankton, they tend to quickly move away because they don't want the tourists maybe to harm them or something like that. And then they try, some of them, they are not able to grow as they're supposed to grow, and then it can actually cause death to them because they are being affected, they are being affected by the presence of tourists that move close to them. And then with that, it can actually cause a kind of endocrine disruption to them because they are being affected psychologically. And then lately, whale shark has been categorized as endangered species under the International Union for Conservation of Nature classification due to their falling population and exploitation. So they are red lists of endangered species. So this means that they are declining so fast. They are declining so fast because some people have pleasure in maybe hunting them for trophy sake. Some because it's like a special delicacy in the restaurant, and other reasons. So their population is declining, and the IUCN is actually putting eye on them. And then that's why we have a day like this to talk about whale shark, a day like this to talk about their significance, so that we will have this notion in us, we have this thought in us that these sharks are actually important. They are not just there, they are not just in the water. Actually, every marine organism in the water, they are there for a purpose. So no marine organism is there for just being there. So they have to regulate the marine ecosystem. So today is meant to celebrate or to tell us about the significance of this particular fish species, so that maybe we see some people trying to hunt them or using some kind of maybe hunting equipment to hunt them, maybe spear or something. We'll be able to tell them like, no, this particular fish species is actually it does have a kind of great significance in the marine ecosystem. And then we try to tell them to conserve, to preserve, and to make sure that this whale shark doesn't go into extinction. So we have measures that are being used to conserve the whale shark. And now several countries have stepped up measures to conserve the population of the whale shark by prohibiting hunting and maybe fishing them, or maybe through recreational fishing for hunting, for trophy or other things. So several countries have set up measures because they are now in the red list of endangered species, and we have to stop illegal fishing of the fish. We have to stop it. Like the only reason why anybody should go close to whale shark is because maybe you want to carry out a research which is approved by the government. So, and when you are diving, maybe for recreational purpose, for tourism sake, do not take flash photography because it affects them. If you must take their photographs, don't use flash. I don't know. I know we have some divers in the house. So maybe you are diving and you come across them. Don't take flash photography because it affects them. And do not touch the animal or approach them in the front, because once you approach them in the front, they tend to they try to avoid you. And once they're avoiding you, it's a kind of cause a kind of behavioral depletion. Like there is a paradigm shift in that behavior. And also, when the flash of your photography, maybe they get it caught up with the flash, it tends to affect them psychologically also. So if you must go near them at all, you must be at at least 3 meters distance away from them. And then don't use flash to take their photograph. And tourist boats also should also keep a safe distance of at least 20 meters. So if you're on the tourist boats, maybe going for tourism's sake, so you have to take out maybe 20 meters, at least 20 meters distance away from the whale shark. Maybe you sight whale shark and then you want to have a feel of how whale shark moves and the likes, be 20 meters away. And most importantly, you can see that there are some space before this particular point, which is we have to mitigate climate change. This is very important. Not about adapting it alone now. Yes, I know there are some adaptation for climate change, but we have to mitigate, which means we have to reduce our emission. We have to slow down the pace in which we are releasing the CO2 and other greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. So we have to mitigate climate change because these species are actually moving from like their normal marine environment is the tropical region, like the tropical region of the South Americas, the tropical region of the Africa, the Gulf of Guinea coast and the likes like that. But they are tending to move to the polar region now because the surface temperature in those areas are becoming too high for them to actually make sure that they survive in that environment. So we have to, as a matter of urgency, we have to mitigate climate change and then make sure that we reduce our greenhouse emission. So if you are close to maybe policymakers and the likes, do it to tell them like, oh, there are so many things that are at stake if we keep on emitting greenhouse gases. So yeah, so thank you. So do we have any question?
Yes, I have a question, sir.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much, sir, for moderating this session. Thank you for the ideas you shared with us. So I want to ask a question that I want to make some clarity. So concerning sharks, could be whatever species, how do they directly or indirectly, do they directly or indirectly contribute to climate change? That is, do they directly or indirectly contribute to addressing, yes, helping to solve climate change issues? And then secondly, also talking about the balancing of the ecosystem, how significant is their role? And can it also be linked to addressing climate change issues?
Oh yeah, thank you for the question. And yeah, talking about sharks generally, if I get you right. So sharks, many species of sharks are part of the top predators, and then they tends to help to balance ecosystem in the sense like, okay, let me give you an example. Sharks are at the top. It's just like a pyramid. They're at the top. Then they have other fish species that may be carnivorous also, or piscivorous. So piscivorous means fish that consume fish. So they have other fish down the trophic level under them, and they have other fish that are herbivorous or planktivorous, like this whale shark we talked about now. So if sharks are removed, that means the fish that are under them will grow beyond necessary. How will I say it now? The ones that are below their level now, they will grow excessively. Like sharks are no longer there for them to regulate the fish. It's just like a cycle. Like all the animals in the marine ecosystem, they help to keep the ecosystem balanced. But if you now remove a particular a particular, how would I say, a particular species or particular level from the old food web, then there will be a kind of mismanagement, or there will be a disruption to the ecosystem, because the ones that they're supposed to be feeding on, they will grow in large quantity, like their population will grow. So there's no shark or no other top predators that is preventing or checkmating their growth. And then once they grow so much, like once the population increase immensely, then they tend to feed more on the fish that are below them. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. They are at the top, the sharks at the top, they are removed. And then the ones that are below them, they grow so wide, like they cover the sea and the likes. And then the ones that they're supposed to feed on, those piscivorous species, or maybe the carnivorous fish species that they're supposed to, that the sharks are supposed to feed on, they enlarge in population, and then they are feeding much more on the herbivores, which makes the herbivores to go extinct also. And then the herbivores supposed to be maybe feeding on the plants and the likes like that. Then we have so many plants springing up in the water body, and then the place is no longer conducive even for the animals that feed on the herbivores. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. Like the animals that feed on the herbivores, now the place is no longer conducive for them, because they can't even see other fish or other animals to feed on anymore. They cannot feed on grass as the herbivores will feed on grass, but because their population has expanded, they have consumed all the fish or all the animals that they're supposed to be managing, because the shark that is controlling their population is already removed. So their increase in population also causes their food to go into extinction, and then inavoidably they will go on extinction also, because they don't have food to eat, to consume also. So this is like a system. Ecosystem is a system itself. So once one integral part of the ecosystem is removed, every other part will fall apart. So it's no brainer. Like if you remove any integral part of the ecosystem, you remove a trophic level. It's a pyramid, as I said. You remove the top predator, or you remove the ones that are feeding on the herbivores or the likes like that. So it will make the cycle not to continue. And then with that, we have almost all of the fish species going on extinction. So they don't have food to eat anymore. And then we have a clear but bushy marine ecosystem. So I don't know if I'm able to explain to answer your question.
Yes, sir. You answered my question. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Mr. Medlary, do you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My contribution is not much of a question, but rather like an addition, if you are going to permit me, to what you have said.
Oh, no, go ahead, please.
Okay, so on what the previous person asked, he asked about like what you were explaining about if the whale shark is not present in the water system. I want us to even dive more into the chemical cycle of the water. You said the whale shark, they are planktons feeders. And planktons, like I understand, they are like plants. And you know what plants uses? Plants consume oxygen in order to grow. So now when there's the absence of this whale shark in the water, that means there will be you talked about algal bloom. There will be like a plankton boom in the water, which means much more of oxygen in the water will be consumed, which makes it less available for other organisms in the water to strive. So everything, like you said, is interconnected. The absence of one is a threat to the other. So, like, I just wanted to input that the chemical the biological process, everything it's interconnected. So thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you for your contribution. Thank you so much. I said in the lecture, like whale shark are very, very essential. And just to correct what you said, the phytoplanktons, they needed CO2 and not oxygen. So they needed CO2 and they give oxygen to the water, but the algae becoming excess on the water body, in the water body, causes depletion of oxygen because they needed more oxygen to break down themselves and then degrade. So yeah, thank you for your contribution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I must have gotten that wrong the other way around.
Yeah, I
so
understand.
Sorry for that. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, just to put it straight out there. Thank you. Someone raised up his hand the other time. I missed that. Okay, Mr. Detola.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you very much. I just have a contribution to your presentation, and I don't know if I will be allowed to just say one or two things.
Yeah, to everyone, if you have a contribution or you have a question, you are allowed. So please.
Okay, thank you. So I just want to address, like, contribute to your answer that you gave to Mr. Paul's question. So when he was asking about how do shark, like, generally, how do they directly or indirectly affect climate change, or how do they contribute to its mitigation? So one thing I know is that the aquatic ecosystem is known as the carbon sink, in which they trap carbon that human being and from all other anthropogenic activity that we push into the atmosphere. So sharks contain about 10 to 15% of carbon in their muscular tissue, and when they die, they sink to the ocean floor and take all those carbon that they've trapped into their body. They take it down, they trap it down on the ocean floor. So by so doing, they tend to take away some of this carbon that we produce in the atmosphere, and they keep that away from us. And yeah, I think that is one way in which they reduce carbon from our atmosphere. And balancing the ecosystem. One thing I know again is that I'm not talking about whale sharks now, because they filter feeders and they don't feed on other fish. So, but other sharks like bronze whalers and other sharks that feed on other fish, they tend to prey on sick fish. So by so doing, they reduce the spread of disease in the aquatic ecosystem. So when a fish is sick, instead of maybe escalating the level of disease or something into in the marine ecosystem, they tend to prey on those kind of fish so that the disease will not spread across all other areas or other part of the system. So that is just what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Detola, for your contribution. Yeah, that was enlightening. The veins of shark, they store CO2 and then they have to bury it when they die. Wow, that was enlightening. So I didn't know about that before. So yeah, Mr. Steven, you have the floor, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Paul, for your fine delivery about the whale shark. I actually have two questions to ask briefly. It's not a lengthy question though. The first one is first you mentioned the economic importance of the whale shark and the effects it has too on the ecosystem. You mentioned the fact that their oil are used as waterproof for boats, and also talk of their fins too, also having an economic value. Though we know that this can actually lead to over exploitation as a result of the economic impact it has. So overfishing activities take place, which may also lead to the extinction of this fish species. So are there laws specifically, are there fishery laws guiding the, you know, overfishing processes involved in this, about this very species we are talking about? Are there fishery laws, and how strong are these laws? Are they being enacted? I think looking into that will be one of the best ways to see to it that these fishes are still, safeguarded, and they are still there, in the water, and there will still be a form of a sustainability processes involved. So just want to know if there are laws guiding these fishing processes. Then the second question is this: does Aqua World as an organization or as a body also acknowledge other fish species apart from the whale shark? Because the whale shark is actually a marine fish species. So does Aqua World also acknowledge other fish species, freshwater species that we may, that we know well of, like fish species that have high economic value, like the trunk fish known as the Gymnacus niloticus. It has high economic value, and it's even overexploited in some locations in Nigeria. So does Aqua World also acknowledge these fish species? So these are just the two main questions I would like to ask. Thank you.
Uh, Thank you for the question, and the questions rather. So I would have loved to answer the second question, but I may not be able to answer you very well, or you would have loved to hear the answer. So I would allow Mr. Paul Ayomide to give you answer to that question about I think he had your question very well, so he'll be in the best position to tell you what Aqua World is all about. And then, but I'm very sure and I'm certain that we are not particular about whale shark alone. We expand our tentacles now, quote unquote, to other parts. We look at marine conservation. We look at mitigating marine pollution, reducing plastic pollution, and all other activities. But it will give you an overview or maybe more insight into that question, and then I know you'll be given the answer you actually needed. And to the first question, in my presentation I talked about which shall be under the red list of endangered species under the IUCN. So IUCN is an international body that looks into the conservation status of every animal, not particular to fish alone, like to all animals. So they look at, what is their conservation status? Are they endangered now, or are they actually living well, or are they close to extinction, or they are extinct already? So depending on the category those animals are, that will communicate the kind of law that will be put out there to conserve them. So particularly for whale shark now, I'm not sure, but I'm of the opinion, because I read about some countries like Taiwan that was using the flesh in their restaurant and the likes. Now there's law that is banning it, according to what I read. So they banned the hunting or the fishing of the whale shark now, just to conserve it. So, and I know since IUCN is an international conservation status organization, so I know that they have there's how they put it out law there to conserve all these animals, but that doesn't mean there are no illegal fishing or illegal hunting of this animal. And that's why we have to advocate for their conservation. That's why we have to advocate just to keep on telling people that these animals, they are essential in the marine in the ecosystem. And if we remove them, so many things will go wrong. So yes, there are laws that I'm sure of, but I can't tell you the specifically the laws that are out there. But there are laws that have been postulated to conserve this particular fish species, and then but it's now left for each countries now, maybe countries in the Gulf of Guinea, countries that borders the countries that borders the Gulf of Guinea, that knows that the whale shark is in their water body, in the like for them to not take it up upon themselves to postulate maybe national law or local laws that we also prevent their local fishermen to fish those fish, that particular fish species also. And we really need a kind of integrated effort from every countries and every nations of the world to make sure that we conserve and preserve this particular fish species. I may not be so sure to say categorically the laws that are in place, but I know there are actions and there are laws, there are legislation in place to conserve this particular fish species. Mr. Paul, you have something to say?
Okay, yes. I want to respond to the last part of that person's question that has to do with laws. Right. So I happen to know some of them. So the person can go online and read about Shark Conservation Acts. As early as 2000, 2001, 2002, there have been some motives to have laws against the cutting of shark fins. So in European country, shark fins are high valued. They have high values. And when you cut the fin of a shark, it just has rendering it useless. So over then, there have been so many actions to have the shark finning prohibition act. There's a act that says shark finning prohibition act. So I think from the era of the COVID-19, Canada, United States officially banned the purchase and cutting of shark fins. But recently, the president, I think Joe Biden, it was not Donald Trump, Joe Biden signed a particular act. So yes, and we also have the Shark Conservation Act also. So you might also want to read up on that. So, but legally, United States are taking it up. United States are taking it up. Okay, so I remember now, the act was signed in 2000 by Clinton. Yes, it was signed in 2000 by Clinton. But then, not Joe Biden, sorry, in 2000 by Clinton. Please pardon me, 2000 by Clinton. That's the Shark Finning Prohibition Act. But since then, sharks are still being killed. Their fins are still removed. So until I think a few years ago, where more actions were taken to see that this act is implemented. So in the United States, but currently in so other states, this is being done illegally in so many other countries. I can't say for US because I'm not there, but every month there are reports about shark finning. So, but we have the Shark Conservation Act that governs or restricts cutting of shark fins. So yes, we have that.
Okay, thank you for the insight into the legislation that are available in preventing shark extinction and maybe illegal fishing. So yeah, it's we still have to take conscious effort to make sure that even though there are legislation, we are actually doing what legislation talks about. Yeah, because of our time, Mr. Paul, can you please throw more light to his second question about Aqua World?
Okay, what's the question, please?
So his question was, are we only particular about whale shark, or do we consider other freshwater species also in our organization?
Okay, thank you so much. This month, the reason why we're discussing about whale shark this month is because we want to commemorate the International Whale Shark Day. Next month, we might decide to talk about another species. It can be platypus, it can be salmon. What we want to do is we want to acquaint you with so many information that you need to know. So no, it is not only about whale shark. It's not even about only the whale shark. We might talk about any other shark species, and we might talk about any other. We might talk about aquatic plants next. So that depends on our foreign hub.
Oh yeah, we don't. Yeah, sometimes it can be about the marine ecosystem. It may not necessarily be a particular maybe species that we are talking about. So our next seminar may be about our attitude to marine ecosystem and the like. So just watch out. We will advertise. It's a monthly seminar, and this one is the maiden edition of the seminar. So next month we have another talk which we address another thing in the marine ecosystem, and it can be in the freshwater ecosystem, and it may be concerning our relationship or how we relate with the aquatic ecosystem. So watch out. So it's not as if I didn't have the question, but I just wanted to hear it from the horse's mouth. So Aqua World is not about whale shark alone. We are just commemorating the whale shark, International Whale Shark Day. And that's why we are giving a talk. We have gathered here to talk about the whale shark. So it's not really about the whale shark. So Mr. Steven, I hope your questions have been answered.
Thank you very much. You've answered my question.
Okay, thank you. So the last question before we call it a day is on the chat. So by Oye. So it says he or she, pardon me if you are she and I'm saying he. Whale sharks are ovoviviparous. Whale sharks are fish and not mammals because their young come from eggs. However, they do not actually lay these eggs. The eggs are fertilized within the uterus of the mother and actually to I think this is like a Google explanation already, or Google definition of what ovoviviparous are, why whale sharks are called ovoviviparous. So that's why they are not mammals, because mammals babies grow in the placenta, but these whale sharks, they don't grow in the placenta, is in the uterus of the mother. So that's the difference. That's why they are called fish and not marine mammals. You know, whales are marine mammals. And during my presentation, I said the whale shark are the largest fish, not largest marine organism, largest fish. So they are largest fish in the marine ecosystem. So they are fish and they are not mammals because they don't their babies didn't grow in the placenta and then give birth, but they grow, their egg got fertilized in the uterus, and then they develop in the uterus, and then they give birth to the baby like that. So that's why they are being called fish and they are ovoviviparous. It's not peculiar to whale shark, you know. Almost all other shark species are ovoviviparous, and snakes also are ovoviviparous. So yeah, so that's it. I hope I'm able to answer your question. So, and that's it for today. Thank you so much for coming. you are much more appreciated. And then I will actually, if you really want to join us in doing the good works, in preaching the gospel of a clean ocean, preaching the gospel of conservation of the marine ecosystem and marine organisms, then you can join us. And then I don't know, Mr. Paul is out of here. So you can just tell us that you are interested, and then the link to join the group will be sent to you, and then your details will be collected, and then you'll be invited maybe for interview, and you'll be recruited into the team. So we wish to have you on board. We want to have you on board, but if you're passionate about this, do it to reach out to us. And then thank you so much for coming. So I don't want us to make it shouldn't end here. Then we should continually talk about this. We should continually talk about the significance of our marine organisms, not only whale shark. We should continually let people know that once you remove an integral part of a marine ecosystem, every other thing will become useless. So please, let's preach the gospel of conservation. Let's make sure, let's be a good steward and a good ambassador of a conserved marine ecosystem. So thank you once again for coming. And then we really, once again, I really want to, I know you may notice that the guest speaker that was on the flyer isn't available. We are very sorry. It was beyond what we can control. It's he gave us his word that he will be here even until last week. So I don't know what happened. So I don't want to say I cannot speak for him. So until I reach out to him and get to know what happened. So we are very, very sorry. And I hope you are not disappointed for joining us here. So maybe later on, he can still come over to talk about his work about shark conservation in Cameroon and maybe globally also. So once again, thank you so much for joining, for tuning in. Next month is another seminar, and then we hope you will join us next month also. Thank you and have a good day.